everybody, and welcome to a special edition of Adventures in History. That's right, it's time once again to take a moment, look back, reflect, and spend a couple hours looking at pictures of stuff. What's up, Foggage? How's it going? Adventure! Metriand, what up? How's it going? How's things? How's things going?
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
Fidelia, thank you so much. Much appreciated. And thank you for 14 months. Holy moly. 14 months, good gracious. It seems like only yesterday. I guess I need to add some more sub badges. We'll have to add that on the list of things to do when I get back. What's up, Tropical? How's it going? Good to see you. Okay. So, like I said, tonight is a sort of special episode because we had a community goal to raise a whole bunch of channel points for a photos only stream. This is something that I had done previously for a viewer request, and I figured, may as well give it another shot because it went over fairly well the first time, and we had a pretty good time with it, so we're going to do it again. And what we're really about to kind of launch into is basically just showing a whole bunch of pictures and then me talking about it and taking questions from everybody. But the specialness of the stream is that I get to wear the adventure hat basically the entire stream, because all of these are photos of places that I have been, and we'll actually get to see the adventure hat in some of these photos. Maybe I should engage adventure mode. This is what happens when I click up the sides here. No, I don't know. What do you think? Half adventure? Yeah. Anyway, so, hope everybody's doing all right. Want to remind everybody that this is probably going to be, well, it's definitely going to be my last history-ish stream for a couple of weeks. And it will likely be, I don't know, I might do some Gundam stuff over the weekend, but I am going to Turkey. Oh Lord, the sides have come up. All right? Oh Lord, he coming. Just need a fan for the breeze. Indeed. But I am going to Turkey, and I'll have lots more adventures to talk about. And if you all would like to be more involved in that adventure, I will remind everybody that I am taking some donations, and the little link right there that you can click on will take you to the Discord to show you sort of some tiers of stuff that I'm doing that's kind of like a Kickstarter. You can get some sort of daily travel updates with some photos on there. You can get access to a special Discord channel that I've made just for the trip, and it's pretty full of stuff now. Places that I'm going to be going, research that I've posted, photos of places that I've been before, questions, etc. Melissa in Denial wants to go to Turkey too. Yeah, it's a pretty cool place. It's a really cool place. But other things that go along with that donation stuff, I'm going to be doing some special sort of limited edition streams on the Discord and video chat where I share some stuff. And if you want to sit down one-on-one and just pick on questions and get access to all of my photos that I'm going to take while I'm over there, you can do it. You can do it. Sushi, high-end, fancy whiskey, good stream from a friend, you win. Lumpy, there's nothing wrong with that. That sounds pretty friggin' great. Everybody go give our whiskey drinking friend Lumpy a follow Maybe if he has too much whiskey tonight, he might not be feeling very great tomorrow morning for stream, but we'll see, right? Lumpy's a great streamer. You should go check him out. Always have fun there. Plus, there's a plus. While we're waiting on Lumpy's plus, you debugged your chemistry project. Yes, I read earlier on Aristotle's Discord that you had figured out the stuff.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
Tuna, 16 months. At the 2, you get White Tree of Gondor because, my friend, you are amongst the high men, the Numenorians, right? The ones that are up there. You debugged the chemistry project. That's great. What up, late bloomer? How's it going? And the big pharmacist says, please, your procedures quick because ours are not great. That sounds pretty great. Anytime you've got, gigantic companies saying, please, let me do what you do, that can be turned into hopefully a financial windfall for you. And I hope that your employers recognize your contribution to the overall situation and then not just give you the good thumbs up and the pat on the back, but some, large financial contribution as well. Fighting disease is great, but so is getting a bonus. I understand. No. You're fine. You're fine. You do your thing. Everybody's in good times tonight, right? I'm in a pretty good mood myself. Today was actually my last day of the semester, so I am done with work until August, and it will be an amazing time. An amazing time. So I'm also in pretty good spirits. Took a little bit of a nap this afternoon, which is something that I don't normally do, but pretty good. So I'm going to I'm going to have a great time in Turkey. It's going to be busy, and it's going to be long days, and it's going to be work, and then I'm going to come back and have to write a research paper, but I still get to go to Turkey, right? You should plan date nights more often now. We have a date night every week on Wednesday. My wife and I always set aside Wednesday night, and every week we'll do something, and it's, if it's go out to eat or watch a movie together, but there could be no work done on date night, and it's always set aside for us to just have some time together to hang out and sort of get away from the wider world of things. So, oh, dude, I'm so excited about it. All right, so let's get to the photos. All right, so if you were with us way back in, viewer request number 28. 28. So this is like almost 30 episodes ago. We had a all photo stream, and it's been a while. So we're going to do it again, and here's how it's going to go. I'm really just going to show a whole bunch of pictures, and you're not going to end up looking at my mug very much, and that's probably okay for a lot of people, but just know that the adventure hat will be there with you in spirit. But as always, please do break out the questions if you got them, and we will get a little bit of kind of different stuff tonight. I've got some interesting interactive stuff. Well, I got a video that I'm going to play, and then I've got some, just photos and things that you would normally not see, like goofy pictures of me and pictures of food when I'm traveling and stuff like that. I say that, and then of course,
we shall have camels, horses,
tropical. Holy moly!
Provisions, desert vehicles, and tanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, my friend. That is very welcome. I really appreciate that, and I will. I'll send you an invitation to the Discord as soon as I get off stream. Thank you. That's very generous. I really do appreciate that. You don't like to give money to Bezos? I understand. What's up, Snowlock? How's it going? Hope you're having a good one. All right, cool. So I've got this all set up now. GeoGuessr Adventure Edition. Kind of, sort of. But we're going to start with some pictures. So let's go right on to it. Here we go. Okay, so if you've been around the stream, you know that I really enjoy going to churches. And I like going to churches for a lot of different reasons. One of the things that is beneficial about churches is that they tend to not be targets for destruction, which means that, you know, in all of the wars and the destruction and the mess that happens in the world, people don't usually target churches. So you can get some really cool old stuff. Also, you can see evidence of communities coming together through time, and you can get a sense of what is important to them, and you end up with really cool stuff like this. So this particular church here is called Christ Church Cathedral, and it is in St. Louis, Missouri. This is an Episcopal church, and it was chartered in 1823. They also float, disqualifying them as candidates for witches. This is correct. Churches do float. It's because of all of the spirit that they have. Churches are not targets for destruction. Would you prefer to tour military bases and weapons depots? The historian within me tells me that could teach us a lot. And I would not say no. Uppsala has a beautiful church. I should visit Metrand. I would love to come see it. And I'm not even joking. I'm serious. I love going to churches. So I've got a church from America, and I've got a church from Turkey, and we'll look at some church. Oh yeah, forts are really cool too. So anyway, this is a big Gothic style church. It was chartered in 1823. And there was a smaller church at this particular site, but this particular building was in 1859, and it took them about 10 years to build it. What up, Shiggy? How's it going? Hope you're having a good one. So it took about 10 years to build this. Now you can see here that this particular bell tower here and the front entryway have been added. Those were added in the early 1900s. From about 1909 to about 1911. But let's take a gander inside. So again, with our Gothic style churches, you can see the evidence of that by these really big, tall lines and these pointed archways. Also, the copious amounts of windows and lights. One of the sort of themes of Gothic architecture is this concept of drawing your eye upward. This is a very, well, I mean, you could say that it's subtle, but basically here this is to try to get you to look towards the heavens. And the light coming in natural is going to be the light of God, and the copious amounts of light on the inside are going to be the illumination. So all of this stuff is metaphoric, but, you know, it's also particularly good to get the point across, right? Windows are helpful. This is true. This was built way before electricity, so... but you would have had these candelabras here would have been, of course, actual candelabras at that point instead of the electric ones, which they are now. Oh yeah, arches are great, especially these great Gothic pointed arches that are just to a little point at the top there. Now, this particular church has a great set of stained glass windows. You can see here these are incredibly intricate. The insurance value of these, we were told, is somewhere in the $10 to $12 million range. To get these, they're insured for basically about $10 or $12 million because they're literally irreplaceable. The type of workmanship and craftsmanship that went into these is not really something that happens very much anymore, and if something were to happen to these particular windows, it would be almost impossible to replace them. Now you can see here around the windows, this is sort of inside the door and looking backwards. So this is looking at the front of the church. If we want to skip back, these three windows right here are what we are looking at right here. So this is a gigantic pipe organ, and it is really, really impressive. And I was lucky enough when we were there that I was in a position where I could talk to the people that were in charge of the church, and the organist was actually on the premises. And I have, if I can get it to play properly, a recording of the organist playing. So can you all hear this? I think you can hear that. I'm pretty sure you can. Okay, cool. So here is that big pipe organ playing. Well, is it going to play? Come on now. Oh, here we go. So that was really cool. Organs do always sound kind of drunk. I don't actually know exactly what tune that was, but I know that from inside of the building, it was like being at a concert. It's that feeling where it's sort of reverberating inside your bones. It was a really cool experience, though, and I'm glad that I got to hear that. Now, this particular altarpiece, yeah, like a religious experience, right? This particular altarpiece is absolutely stunning. So, no. I've heard many church organs before. That was probably the largest one that I'd ever heard like that, but I can't remember exactly how big it is. It's called an Aeolian Skinner organ. So if you know anything about organs, the Aeolian Skinner model organ is what it is. But this particular altarpiece here has 52 different pieces, and it was carved independently in 52 different pieces in Exeter, England. And it was shipped to America in pieces, and it is enormous and it's incredibly detailed, and I've got a couple of close-up pictures here of this piece, and you can see here we've got the 12 disciples, and we've got James and Mary. We've got all sorts of really great religious iconography, but if we zoom in, we can see just the massive amounts of detail that are on this piece. It's absolutely visually striking, and it's one of the most impressive pieces of stonework that I've ever seen in my life. Gundam altar build stream, right? Super Lego build, right? This is another irreplaceable work of art, right? I mean, it's just an amazing piece of It's just crazy. I don't even know how else to describe it. And we've got different little insets. Of course, here we have the Nativity that is right above the altar. Of course, this one is chronologically and scripturally inaccurate, as it has the wise men here, but we'll forgive them because it's beautiful workmanship. Yeah, man, I can't even imagine how long it took. So I actually know how long it took them. It took them 3 years to carve this, from 1909 to 1911. This is around the same time that they were adding on the bell tower and those front facades, is when this all came together. And it's crazy. It's an amazingly stunning piece of work. I don't know how many workers worked on it. I know that there was a particular company that was in England that, sorry, wrong button, that did all of the work. Yeah. So this is about 110 years old, and to a certain extent, everything in America is a little bit younger because we're not as old as a lot of the other places. But you can see, if we're just looking down the barrel vault here, this is a great English Gothic church. If you were in the later Renaissance area, and you can look down the barrel vaults of any of the big Gothic churches in Europe, this is what it's going to look like. Stained glass windows, little rosette windows tucked in. Here's our big organ down here. Pretty cool stuff. All right. What are we having for dinner? We'll look at dinner in just a little bit. We'll get there. I thought it was just like Hearst Castle, where he just bought himself a church and mailed it to himself. No, these are. This was a group of Episcopalians that had quite a bit of money and had a sizable population inside the city of St. Louis, and moved a lot of that stuff over. So, all right, now, so we've looked at a church in America, but. Well, I don't know. Let me actually do something real quick. Let me see if I can get... Let's see if we can get Christ Church Cathedral on the old street view and see if we can see what we've got going on here. Yeah, check it out. Let's take a look at it here from the actual street. So you can see here again, this is typical decked out. What's up, Evo? Merhaba, my friend. You got your buttresses that are holding your big tall walls up. You've got your really cool facade in the bell tower. The bells in St. Louis, or this particular tower, are the largest ones in St. Louis. The biggest of the bells weighs about 57,000 pounds. Or sorry, 5,700 pounds, not 57,000. But, 2.5 tons. Pretty cool stuff, though. I love this three-dimensional view we can get. This is really great here. All right, let's zip over to Italy real quick. Going across the pond. Whee! And we'll look at this beauty of a church. This is the Duomo of Siena. And specifically, the church's name is the Cathedral of Santa Maria Assunta, which is it's the metropolitan seat of the diocese in Siena. So like the archbishop and the metropolitan hangs out in this church. But you can see here that it is really, really cool. Can we go inside? No, we cannot go inside. But we can get some photo stuff there, or we can look at that, or we can look at my photos. Your front neighbors. Let's look at this church. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. Is this octagonal? 1, 2, 3. No, it's hexagonal. Oh, that's really cool. Hedvig Eleonora Church. Very cool. Is this a Lutheran church? If this is when you were in Sweden, I would guess that it might be Lutheran, but I'm not sure. The inside has blue-purple columns. Oh, that's wicked cool. Oh, it is an octagonal church. Okay, cool. Ah, yes, Lutheran. That's what I would have guessed. All right, so first right off, we notice that there is a motif here. We see black and white alternating marble. And because we are in Siena, Italy now, Siena's colors, the colors of the city that you'll see basically all over the city, are black and white. Now, this actually goes way back to a myth of the founders of the city that had a black horse and a white horse, but we don't have to go into all of that stuff. We're talking here about the big old honkin' church. It's visually striking, but this is the big one. It is just a crazy load of awesome Gothic decoration. It is from top to bottom decked out with all of the cool stuff. So these big doors here are actually metal, and they're solid one-piece doors. This particular cathedral was designed in 1215, and they started building it in 1215, and they built it until 1263. The facade here was overseen and made by a really famous Renaissance artist called Giovanni Pisano, and he did basically everything until right about here. And then got angry with the city and left. So if you notice, the sort of bottom floor here does not have the same level of intricate detail as the top stuff, because that little line right about here is where Pisano got angry and stopped working. What happened to the rosette window? It's still there, and it's got protective glass on the front of it. There's a picture of it from the inside that you can see the stained glass from. So don't worry about that. This is all mostly just to keep the outside stuff from wrecking it. All right, so let's go inside. Oh well, first here, Santa Maria Assunta, the ascended Mary. So here she is, getting crowned by God in heaven, surrounded by angels. We've got a wicked cool angel statue up here. This, by the way, is size and a half to life. And this statue and this statue are life size, and they're at the top of these spires that nobody will ever get to go up and see. But, oh yeah, triangle, totally Illuminati, that's it. But man, just look at all the decoration on this stuff.
I'm Spartacus!
I'm Spartacus! KP.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
KP, thank you, my friend. And welcome to the adventure. 22 months of being Spartacus. That's the good stuff. What up, Batbird? Good to see you. Yeah, so just so much detail. You've got disciples and apostles, and you've got saints and winged cows and lions and angels and famous people, and this place is just, absolutely decked out with super cool statuary and really neat stuff. All right, so inside, again, we are looking at that good old-fashioned barrel vaulted Gothic style. Now, not with the pointy arches. Inside here we have the rounded arches. The pointy arches are typical to a little bit later on, and they're specifically typical to more of a Protestant / English Gothic style. those aren't angels. You're not going mad trying to comprehend their existence. All right, so we've got, again, the resurgence of the black and white motif. Notice here that the floor is also completely decked out. We'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. A couple of things to note. Across the tops of these rows are individual little busts. And these busts are of all of the popes. So they go all the way down this side and all the way up this side. Typical iconography. Angels, apostles, winged cows. Is that not a mosque motif? The black and white or the decorative stuff on the floor here? The stuff on the floor is isometrically kind of designed, which you might run into in a mosque. But not specifically. This is actually swastikas. If we look at them a little bit closer, yeah, so this like comes around this way and then around this way and then around this way, around that way. Let's remember that, again, the swastika stuff is stolen. Black and white. You do see that quite a bit in on the inside of mosques, specifically on the walls. You might get some black and white design. A lot of that, though, is okay, so that's more of a religious thing because of their sort of general lack of decoration when it comes to things that are artistic, when it comes to, like, life depictions, you know. This black and white stuff comes from the fact that Sienna's colors are black and white, and they're very, very proud of their church. KP, let's not even play with the Nazi stuff. All right, so we've got our good big old vaulted ceilings here with our crossing domes and arches. Really impressive height here. It's about 120 feet tall or so. It's pretty far up there. Big dome here over the middle with stars. You know, got little angels and such around the motifs, and you've got, of course, cool statues all over the inside. Child of the 80s, black and white stripes are spelling Beetlejuice. No, that's perfectly fine. You've also got these internal, these great examples here on the walls. These are more Pisano works. They're, again, supposed to be all the way around, but did not get all the way around. You know, again, when you make the artist angry, he tends to go off in a huff. So there are a couple of things here to point out. This is the altar, of course, and right here, it is very, very difficult to get an eyeball on what this actually is, but this is the baptistry. And because of the lighting inside and the backdrop against it, you can't really see it. But this particular baptistry is carved with a relief by Donatello. What made him angry? Well, the city... So during the Renaissance, one of the things that happened a lot was competition among cities to have the coolest stuff, especially in northern Italy. There were lots and lots of, like, I have the coolest stuff, you have the coolest stuff. And when you hired an artist like this, you basically wanted to make sure that you were getting the best bang for your buck, because when you got started with this stuff, everybody else was going to get to see what you were doing in the process, and you needed to have some budget left over to come back and add extra embellishment, you know, just in case they were going to build something slightly bigger or slightly better. And they kept asking Pisano to do more stuff, and basically he took this as an insult that he wasn't doing enough and that his work wasn't being appreciated. So basically mission creep, you know, if you've ever done work with clients and you know how that stuff gets like a little bit, it starts a little, could you just do like this, or could you just add this? And his brother got angry and got involved, and they were going to hire another person to come work with him, and that didn't work anymore. Anyway, yeah, mission creep. Yeah, pretty much. But anyway, this baptistry here has a relief carving by Donatello. Yeah, it's not stretch goals unless they add more money to it, which they weren't really interested in doing. And this particular piece right here is a big lantern that is similar to, basically cast off of a replica of the lantern that's on top of the big dome. This was designed by Bernini, who is another very famous artist of the Renaissance. Now, we do have a side chapel here that is decked out, and when you're gonna gold plate something, you may as well go all the way. And this particular statue here is one of the most famous works by Donatello. This is his rendition of Saint John the Baptist. That sort of gets its own little nook in a side chapel here. Pretty cool stuff. So Lumpy was worried about the stained glass window, but I mentioned I love gold. Was this before or after he was a turtle? This is before. Now, one of the things that I do sometimes is I rate churches in Italy by Ninja Turtles. So this is actually a 2 Ninja Turtle church. So here's the inside of the stained glass window, and of course we see here the Last Supper scene in exquisite detail. Really, really cool picture here. So you go, well, who's before the ooze encounter? Correct. He goes, okay, so who's the other Ninja Turtle? Well, we'll get there. So I mentioned how cool the flooring was, and on the floor of this particular church, there are 56 different scenes, very similar to this particular one. And I chose this particular one because this is Sienna being depicted here with the Wolf and Romulus and Remus scene. Oh no, see, there's the thing. Sienna is in the middle. Roma is over here with the elephant. And you're like, well, what's up with the particular image here? Well, here's the kicker. So the story goes that when the Goths sacked Rome, that they carried away the original statue that was the she-wolf with Romulus and Remus. And a brave group of soldiers from Siena broke into the Gothic camp and retrieved the statue. So Siena claims that even today it has the original Roman statue of the she-wolf and the Romulus and Remus. Now, the reason I shared this particular one is, one, to show off the cool flooring, but also because this is a really subtle flex. Right? It's a flex, because remember me mentioning just a moment ago that one of the things that was happening a lot was these competitions between these big cities, and by showing all of these other cities sort of around Siena and putting themselves with the coolest stuff in the middle, there you go. I will tell my art teacher mother about this rating. I expect a chuckle followed by an hour-long enthusiastic outburst about the Renaissance art. So let me show you the second Ninja Turtle. So this particular thing here is a really big marble altarpiece. This is again in a side chapel, but specifically here, that particular statue of St. Paul is a statue carved by Michelangelo. And because of boundaries and you can't walk over there, I didn't get a very good picture of it. But this is the second Ninja Turtle. So Santa Maria Assunta in Siena, 2 Ninja Turtle Church. So there's number 2. Alrighty. Now, hey, what are you doing? Oh, we're being visited by a puppy. Do you want to come up here and see me? You want to come and see me? Huh? You want to come up here? Well, come on. Come on. Oh, yes, there's the puppy. Oh, hello, puppy. Oh, hello. What are you doing? Oh, my goodness. So many sugars. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, my goodness. My goodness. I don't know what you're after. What do you want? Whoa. Woof. Oh my goodness. That dog is a giant mess. Oh, I still have this up. Exit Street View. So anyway, if you go to Siena, make sure you check in on Santa Maria Santa. Really cool place. All right. So you knew you weren't going to be able to get out of me talking and showing pictures of stuff without checking out a Native American mounds. And this guy is one of my favorites because it's one of the biggest ones. So this is Emerald Mound, and it is in Mississippi. It is roughly a pentagon-shaped
camels,
tropical.
horses, an armed escort, provisions, desert vehicles, and tanks.
You're welcome.
Was that just for getting the dog out? Your OCD is triggered triggered by that offness. What? I'm not sure what offness we mean. Like, is it a 5 and it needed to be a 0? Ah. Well, thank you again, my friend. I appreciate it. Okay, so I should also note that the particular mound here has been both eroded and partially wrecked by humans. So it used to be a little bit longer this way, and it used to be a little bit more direct this way. So this particular side of the mound has been chunked away, including 3 smaller mounds that should have been on top over here. So it used to be perfectly symmetrical on both sides. In case somebody was wondering, like, I don't like it being off. It's because humans. All right, but if we are going to give it a look-see, this is that side. And speaking of a little me, there's the Brittany.
You shall have camels, horses, an armed escort,
Lumpy.
provisions, desert vehicles, and tanks.
You're welcome.
Many thanks, my friend. Thank you so much for that. And I will always share all of the erotic pottery that I know about when it is time appropriate. Not to keep self-advertising Uppsala, but you should check out the Royal Mounds in Old Uppsala. Yeah, because there's a whole bunch of cool boat-shaped mounds out there. We actually were very briefly entertaining the idea of going to Sweden, and I had spent about a week and a half doing nothing but looking up really cool Viking sites. So I know quite a bit about the petroglyphs and some of the standing stones, and especially some of the big burial mounds. I'm not exactly sure why we didn't end up going. Well, yeah, okay, I do. It was COVID. Thanks, COVID. Anyway, so this is looking at the mound here, and you can see based on the size of my car and Brittany here that it is really big. So Emerald Mound is the second largest Native American mound in the continental United States. And it is, if you take away, and I'm not trying to say this to be rude, but if you take away the Mesoamerican cultures, and if you're just looking at stuff like the Eastern Woodlands cultures, this is the second largest mound, period. Of course, some of the Central American and Mesoamerican mounds are quite a bit larger than this, but they also had massive populations and had a lot longer to work on stuff than these guys did. All right, so looking down the side of the mound here, you can see just how big this thing is. It's absolutely enormous. It has the particular height here is about 35 feet tall, and it sits on a plot that is 8 acres in size. And we'll see a little bit more of that in just a bit. So here's again Brittany for scale. And you can see the grade of this. Now, the only part of this grade that is original is sort of right around here on the corner, but I've got a picture from the other side showing the actual original grade as well. But here we are on top. So it looks like a giant field, right? And now you notice that there's another mound down here on this end. There's actually a larger mound that's down on what would be the western end. But this whole top here is part of the mound. So all of this is made by humans. And this was made over the course of about 200 years with people using hand shovels and rough tools and baskets. It's an absolutely large and a massive, enormously huge chunk of dirt. Yeah, shovels here meaning things like bits of flint that are put onto the ends of sticks, right? Hand shovels, not like a, you know. I expect only the most fertility in my pottery goddess fetish, I'll have you know. It's only a model, yeah, pretty much. So looking at the small mound on the east end, here's again Brittany for scale. It's about 15 feet tall from. I'm sorry, it's about 35 feet tall. Again, I mentioned that. I don't know why I said 15. So now here's the back side of it, and this would have been the original grade. So it's very steep, and I've shared before on stream. I don't know how many of you all have been around for all of the Adventure Hat stories, but I once fell down the back side of this particular mound, right about here. Right about here. I needed to use the restroom. Of course, there are no facilities at this location. I did not want to use the restroom on top of the mound. It was not a burial mound, but it was a religious site, and I felt bad about it. So I was going to make my way to the tree line over here. But it was in the morning, and this hill was covered with dew, and I was wearing flip-flops. And I got to right about here, and then noticed that I was running. And then I made it to about here, and noticed that I was rolling. And because of the grade of the hill, I actually made one last flip and landed right about here on my feet. On my feet. And it was kind of spectacular. I threw my hands up as if I were an Olympic gymnast doing the kind of thing. No, I did not mean to do that at all. It was luck. So this did have a lot of use, specifically here. This is a site of the Plaquemine culture. The Plaquemines were a group of people that were part of the larger Eastern woodland tradition from about 1250 to about 1600. And it was mostly used for intra-tribal activities where lots of different groups of people in the area would get together and have big celebrations. Must have looked like one of those rotating sprinkler systems, pretty much, and you married him on the spot. This actually was not too long away from the point that we got married. This was the first trip that we ever took together, like the first overnight trip that we ever took together is when I fell down the hill. This particular photo is from, I believe, 2019. But you can still go out there and see that. KP, have you ever been to Emerald Mound? If not, we need to make that work. Okay, so everybody asks for food pictures. Everybody wants food pictures. Okay, so I had to throw in some food pictures. So this is part of Turkish breakfast. And Turkish breakfast is a lot about a few things. It's about veggies and it's about cheese. That's a cool archaeological find. Yeah. Food, corn, yes please. Everyone meaning here about 3 people. I've missed the antecedent to everyone. Everyone was talking. Yeah, so right. I got you. Like who was asking for food pictures? Tomato, cucumber, and cheese, and olives. Yeah, the olives were on the table, but I can't remember where they were. We've got 2 different types of cheese, though. We've got the soft white cheese, we've got the harder yellow cheese. There is a lot of really good cheese in Turkey. A lot of really good stuff. Tomato, cucumber, cheese, and olives, yes. Now this little thing right here, which you can barely see, is a Turkish sort of homage to Nutella. There's also apricot jelly on the table, and I didn't want to share this specifically because there are other people in the photo, and I didn't necessarily know if they wanted to be shared. Going to be doing some experimental archaeology on Thursday. Cool. Going to be working with pottery, apparently. Not related to anything. We've talked about it now, but you just remembered it. Oh, that's neat. Very cool, Metran. I've actually thought about doing an Oops All Artifacts stream. and just showing a lot of pieces of pottery and shards and stuff that I have. Shards, sorry. You would eat Nutella on a cucumber for sure. Yeah, there we go. All right, what's next? This is a Turkish dinner. So we've got a lot of stuff going on here. We've got sort of a potato pie thing going. We've got the lovely and ever-present mixed fresh vegetables. This is the good stuff. Yeah, metze. And we've got some roasted potatoes here. And over here we've got some great little pitas that have cheese baked into them. And of course, sort of the ever-present Coca-Cola. So, very tasty. And I've already been asked by everybody when we are in Turkey to take more photos of food, so I'll be documenting food choices. This beautiful dish comes from Greece. So this is marinated baked chicken, and specifically I filled the Insta account with pics. Specifically here, the marinade that we're looking at was sort of a buttery, kind of smoky sauce. Carbs and meat, oh yeah. And we've got, of course, the ever-present rice, which is a very big staple in Greek food. Get the Haidari as medze. I'll have to check that out. Evo. If you've got any other suggestions, I'd be happy to hear them. Oh, Evo. Let me switch back here. Let me give Evo a shout out here. If you don't know who Evo Lazzi is, you should go give him a follow. Evo is a science streamer and does a lot of work with sort of computer modeling and does some coding and some programming stuff on stream as well. But my friend Evo needs some help with some dental work and is currently working on a fundraising situation for some dental work. So if you were going to donate money to my trip for the rest of the stream, don't. If you're going to donate money to me, you need to go to my friend Evo's page and donate towards helping him get back to Turkey so that he can get some much needed dental work, because the situation that he's in right now in America is one where he doesn't have insurance because post-grads and doctoral stuff, and because American insurance sucks. So go help Evo if you can. He's a great dude, and I would appreciate it, and I know that Evo would appreciate it too. So go do some stuff for my buddy. Puerto Rico dental stuff is cheaper too. Yeah. And also Mexico. Do I tag my photos with comments? I mean, all my photos, not just the ones that I share publicly. Not usually. I usually just take a whole bunch of pictures and then remember what it was. If there is a specific request, I could probably accommodate that to a certain extent, but we'll see. All right, so here is one of my favorite meals when I'm in Greece. This is kofta. Oh man, I love kofta. So kofta is seasoned ground beef or lamb. These were lamb kofta, and they are grilled on a grill with open flame. And so this is, of course, chips and pita bread with some fresh tomatoes and onions and some yogurt. Man, I love me some kofta. This is the good stuff. It's delicious, is what it is. It really is delicious. I love kofta. Excellent kind of stuff here. Now we're talking a full meal. Yeah. You have a Greek restaurant relatively nearby and they do something similar, but you'd love to be in Greece to eat it? Absolutely. There's a local Greek restaurant, and now I kind of want to go eat food at their place. They do a really good kofta. They do theirs a little bit differently. They cook it almost like what we would call in America meatloaf. And it comes out in squares. They sort of grill it in a big square. You never think to just slice and eat tomatoes, onions, and cucumbers. Oh yeah, man. This, you sort of get to like build your own bite, if that makes any sense. So if you look at it, this is really sort of a build your own sort of hamburger. But you can control the distribution of bread to meat to topping to onion to tomato. Oh yeah, I love this stuff, man. Shawarma is great stuff too. Raw onion, offensive. Oh, and mousse. Oh no. Oh no, I love raw onions, man. Used to eat tomatoes and onions raw with vinegar and oil. Oh heck yeah. Raw onion is great in the right context. It is good in the right context. I'll give you that, Metron. Some soft cheese would be great there. Yes. Absolutely, Evo. You are welcome to share anything that you need to or want to, man. You go right on ahead. All right, so for the more refined palate, here we are in Italy, and this is a fine risotto. This particular risotto came as a meal at a site in Italy called Mestre. Mestre is on the mainland just across the lagoon from Venice. And I'll give you a hint. If you ever want to go to Venice, you should stay in Mestre. It's much cheaper. You can drive out to the lagoons themselves, or you can get a water taxi, and you will save money staying in Mestre and getting on a hotel shuttle in many cases to take you out to Venice, which is about a 25-minute ride or so. But you'll save a lot of money staying in Mestre if you ever decide to go to Venice. Also, Venice is a tourist trap now because they let in cruise ships, and it's becoming almost impossible to move around in the city. And unless someone were asking me to be a tour guide, I would never go back. But that's just my opinion. So here we go. This is some nice, tasty food. All right, moving along. Now, here's another site in Turkey. And I sort of went a little bit heavy-handed with the Turkey scenes, sort of as a preface of I'm about to go to Turkey. But this is Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia is a gigantic church that was originally built in 532 by the Emperor Justinian, and it took about 5 years to build it. It was completed in 537, 538. Now, of course, these minarets are added later after the conquest of Istanbul by the Ottomans in 1453. At the fall of the Byzantine Empire, the minarets were added, and Hagia Sophia was turned into a mosque, which it actually is once again being used as today. For quite some time, it was being used as a museum, and when I went there, it was being used as a museum. It is a very famous place, and it is a pretty important church. What's up, Nix? How's it going? Hope you're having a good one. But let's take a look at Hagia Sophia. So this is across park. There's a park that's out in front of it. If we were to be able to basically spin about 90 degrees here to the right, the Blue Mosque, which is another beautiful piece of architecture, is just here to what would be our right. But let's go inside Hagia Sophia. So we again have these giant doors. These doors are ridiculously huge. Again, they're cast metal in one big piece. Now, what's really interesting about these doors is that you all have seen Brittany here on stream. She could walk up and with one arm move these doors around because they are built into hinges that are so well balanced that you can literally just sort of, you could slam these doors open if you wanted to with very little effort. They're just masterworks of craftsmanship. And here we go. This is inside of the church, and you can see that there are still a few pieces of artwork that are left over from the period of this being used as a mosque. I'll show you some other stuff here in just a bit. But you can see here that this is sort of a cruciform-shaped church with 4 smaller domes, with the large main dome here being kind of in the middle. Do you think you... Who do you think you are slamming the doors of my house of worship? One of the cool things about these pillars, around the edges of the church here, you'll be able to see these pillars. Those were actually rated and reused. There are 104 columns in the church, both here on the top level and on the bottom level, that were from the Temple of Artemis in Ephesus. And when they were being, when the Hagia Sophia church was being built, they looted all 104 of those columns and brought them to Hagia Sophia. Now you can see that there is, of course, going to be a lot of Christological imagery here. Of course, we have a dome with Mary and the infant Jesus, and there are just dozens and dozens of these all over the place. This is a photo from the second floor, or the balcony level, looking down on the main floor. Now, over here is scaffolding. They're actually in the process of restoring some of the art here, specifically these big things right here. If you know anything about... so one of the things that's happened recently is there's been a bit of a joking haha trend online of what real angels look like. So this is a picture of a seraphim. And so the 6-winged, weird-faced angel thingy. And these had actually been painted over by the Ottomans and covered up. And what these big scaffolds here are set up to do is very, very slowly remove the paint off of that stuff to reveal the original artwork under it. And there are, of course, 4 of these that are around sort of the larger part of the dome. Now, I showed this particular picture here on purpose because we can see here a couple of things. This used to have more to it. So if we look at this particular image, you can tell that it used to come up and have a cross here. This is another example of how the the church was sort of converted into a mosque, one of the things that happened was a lot of the Christological symbolism either got covered up or just taken off. So they chopped off basically the top of these crosses here, but left the rest of it. You think Madeleine L'Engle's Many Waters was my introduction to the different types of angels, your cherubim and your seraphim and all of that stuff. So here's a picture of me on the balcony, and this is one of my bucket list locations. So when I got to go here, this was a pretty big deal for me, and pretty cool stuff. So I've shown this before. This is the Viking inscription that was done by the Varangian Guard. So these little scratches here are the Viking runes. So I've shown that picture before on stream before, though. It's under plexiglass so that you can't mess with it. But here's a weird thing. Enricus Dandolo. Like, who the devil is that, and why is his tomb in this big church? So, Enrico Dandolo was the Doge of Venice. And because of some connections between him and the Byzantine Empire, he actually died over this way and got buried in Hagia Sophia. And if you've ever read the Dan Brown novels, Dan Brown takes a little bit of liberty with where he places Enrico Dandolo's tomb inside of Hagia Sophia. He says that it's on the bottom floor up against a wall, and it is neither. It's on the second floor up against some walkway stuff. The Doge of Venice. Such fancy many waters, right? We've got, of course, lots of really cool artwork here. We've got some mosaics, emperors and empresses donating money and wisdom to the church here. So this particular one is Constantine, one of the later Constantines, and his wife donating money and scripture to the church. We've got big Christ here with the Bible, and we've got yet another donation. So you get to deck out the church if you're going to fancy it up a little bit. But here's a picture sort of just across the space to try to give you an idea of how big this location is. So the dome at the very top is 180 foot tall, and it's 270 by 240 feet on the floor here. So it's ridiculously big. And until the Astrodome in Houston, Texas was opened in 1965, this was the largest domed building on Earth. So from 537 until 1965, this was the biggest dome that existed. And it's just a marvel of architecture. Absolutely stunning. And here we see the good old-fashioned Justinian and his wife donating the church and the land to Christ and Mary here. Such a great place. All right, we got to show a castle, right? Everybody wants to see castles. So here we go. Here's a castle. Wait a second. We didn't go to Hagia Sophia on the old Google Earth. Let's see what we got going here on Google Earth. I wonder if they've let the Google Earth cameras inside. They have. So first off, so here's the Blue Mosque. I mentioned that earlier. This big thing right here. Oh, look, a castle. And here is Hagia Sophia. And it's pretty clear that they're going to let us go inside here. So let's see what Google Earth says about Hagia Sophia. Okay, so this is pretty clearly fairly new because they don't have all of the scaffolding in. And they've added these. So this is where the baptistry used to sit. And of course they've uncovered all of the seraphim here. Can we move around? Can we go to, say, over here? Ah, we can. Ooh, wrong button. So they've also added a carpet, which was not there when I was there last. But man, it's an absolutely visually stunning place to be in. It's crazy, and I count myself very lucky to have been able to go there. Really cool place. All right, so let's go to see our castle now. We're going to go to Jordan. Whee! Specifically to Shobak Castle in Jordan, which we see here sitting on top of this mountain. And you're like, that doesn't look like very much. It's actually really friggin' cool. So let's take a look here at my photos. So this is Shobak Castle. We can see it perched here on top of this mountain, and this is a pretty cool place. So this originally was commissioned by Baldwin the First. So if you were around when we were doing our crusade streams, you should remember Baldwin the First, who was one of the kings of Jerusalem, a very important king of Jerusalem. During the early and mid 11 teens, Baldwin decided that he was going to try to expand his territory, and he crossed over the Jordan River and began to take territory away from the Turkish soldiers that were holding this region. And he built this castle in 1115. If I'd stop myself from attacking that place, so I'd say it does its job. Well, it actually was attacked and taken by Saladin in 1187, so they only held it for about 60 years. Here's a better shot from a little bit further away in the distance. But the specific reason why I wanted to show this particular picture, other than the fact that it's a cool looking picture, is this little guy right here. This is a cave mouth, and it's got a modern structure built on top of it to sort of keep it open. But I will come back to that in just a second. So maybe they are better at military stuff than me. Well, they also had an army of about 50,000 people, and the Crusaders that were in the castle only numbered about 3,000. So, you know, big numbers and siege equals dead. But let's go around. It's just, I don't know. I love looking at this place. It was really cool to go see this. All right, so inside we've got some pretty cool decorations that have been preserved. This would have been from a later period of time. When Saladin took it over in 1187, he held it until 1261. The Babiyars, who were leaders from Egypt, specifically Mamluk dynasty Egypt, managed to take it away. But these would have been Turkish decorations and Muslim decorations. Big numbers, siege, and motivation. They were indeed motivated. So inside, we can see some of the defense works that were left over. Here's a little bit of me in the corner. Walking around, you see these great little keyhole archways. This actually opens up into a church, which I think we can see here. So I'm actually standing at the front of the church, looking sort of back. So if you imagine what those big Gothic churches looked like with the sort of sideways in the middle walkway, this is what they're emulating here inside of the castle. here is the big buttress, the defense wall. And you can see the really well-fitted stonework here that was designed to make it very difficult to scale this wall. And of course, you've got your big corner turret here with some additional Arabic decorations in the stonework. Really cool. And you can see here just the drop, because from here you go all the way down to the bottom of the hill is actually like way down here. Do archaeologists have some central or distributed repository of knowledge, or will future archaeologists have to depend on whatever random books / collections / journals just happen to survive? So that's a fair question. So one of the things that historians, especially modern historians and archaeologists, are becoming very, very good at is taking procedural photos and sharing as much as they can. So when a dig happens now, you know, let me start at the beginning. Okay, so we go find a tell, you know, like a fake hill where someone clearly lived and there was clearly a city or a village or something on top of this hill. If you start digging, you're actually destroying levels of digging as you're going down, right? You're going to start with modern levels and you're going to go older as you go down. One of the things that modern archaeologists have become very, very good at doing is doing things procedurally. So they will clear one whole level off, and they will photograph all of this stuff properly, and you'll even get publications for each habitation level in many situations. And these photos are shared, documentation is provided, the square that it came out of, the depth that it was in, the level that they called this, the type sites for corresponding archaeological evidence. It's like if I find this particular type of jug in this level at this location, and I find a coin right beside it, or maybe even inside it, right? So I found a coin hoard. And I know that inside of this jug there were coins from this particular era because we know that this guy was ruling at this particular era. And then I find a jug that looks just like that at a city 100 miles away. I can now know about what time that particular level is at that other site. So these are comparative stratigraphy kind of stuff. And it's fairly widely published, and it's pretty easy to get to if you have the right search databases. There are a lot of historical publications that are out there, and it's hard to get them if you're just kind of the general public, but if you are a smarty pants and want to pay for access, or if you're like me and you have access because you used to work at a university and now you work at a college and you've also gone to another college and another college, I've got access to tons of data. That is way more than I'll ever be able to dig through. So we're leaving a lot of stuff behind, and hopefully people in the future won't have to go through the same level of stuff that we did. And because we've done better jobs of recording the procedural step-by-step process of doing excavation, even if we do get something wrong, people in the future can go back and go, this is where they screwed up. Hopefully that happens anyway. Okie dokie, so back to Shobak. Good old-fashioned archery window, right? So the window's opening is really, really, really narrow at the front and very wide at the back. And this is so that I can have a wide range of fire if I am shooting out of this window. And if you're trying to shoot in this window, you've got to be able to shoot through that little slit right there. So good things here for architecture. Architecture helping my defense. Oh yeah, Fogage, absolutely. You sometimes wonder whether anybody in the future will know how to make a pencil. It depends on if the people at the pencil factory leave behind instructions. Here are some more defense walls. You've got your little passageway that runs down from the battlements. Stairwells going up to the battlements. Pretty cool stuff. Here's kind of a larger view. I probably was not necessarily the safest position when I took this photo. But I wanted to kind of get this angle. You could see here, like the terrain around this area is not the most easily marched through anyway, and they chose this sort of one bald hill to put this this castle on top of because, well, you know, if you're going to make a castle, you may as well make it hard to get to in the first place, right? Now, you feel like you're hanging off the side for that. Yes. That is accurate. Now, I mentioned earlier that there was a cave mouth and a man-made structure on top of the cave that's at the bottom of the hill. Now, why did I mention that? Well, the reason this castle was so well located is because of this thing. So this is a hewn tunnel. A tunnel. And the tunnel runs all the way down to the base of the hill to a spring, so that the people defending the castle every morning could go down through this. Oh, this is totally man-made. They literally dug this out of the rock itself. They dug this all the way down to the bottom of the hill to get to the spring, which is right here. So they dug all the way down through this. Yeah, they hewed it, as in they carved it out by hand. This is not a natural occurrence. So they made all of these steps. They dug all of this stuff out by hand. It's a big work. But if you're going to make a castle and you're out in the middle of nowhere, wouldn't it be great to have fresh water in that castle that nobody else knew about? So yeah, it would be great to know that. I actually climbed all the way down through this and popped out at the other end down the base of the hill, but I'm not going to share all of those photos. It gets kind of cramped down in there, and I came out dirty as junk. But dude, there's a tunnel. I'm not going to not go down the tunnel, right? I wonder who the first person was who came up with the idea of making holes in rocks. Probably some bored person. I'll show you some more holes in rocks. Did I find water? Yeah, it's actually still kind of mushy ground at the bottom. And if you were desperate enough, you could have totally drank some of that muddy, murky stuff. But interesting times in Jordan. Really cool stuff, though. All right, now, one of the things that I did last time was showed pictures from a museum. So I decided that I was going to show some more pictures from a museum, and I decided that I was going to show some pictures from the Louvre. So the Louvre, of course, is in Paris. It's one of the largest museums on Earth. I was lucky enough to go there back in 2015, and I did not get to spend nearly enough time in it. If you ever decide to go to the Louvre, you want to spend probably 2 or 3 days, even if you're going to go through it at a fairly, what we might call rapid pitch. There's just so much stuff there. But I'm going to share some of the ancient antiquity stuff, specifically some of the really, really, really oldest stuff, like this thing. This is called the Stela of the Vultures, which comes from a really, really old Sumerian king who beat up a whole bunch of people. And the reason it's called the Stela of the Vultures is that these vultures are flying here, and this is not the world's best representation, but these are heads and spinal columns and rib cages of defeated enemies. Yeah. So this is, I beat you up, and that's what it says in the context here. And then the vultures came to pick at your bones. You fell asleep at the Louvre. Oh no, we went there the first day we got to Paris with the EF tour. We were just so jet lagged. Oh no, that's horrible. I'm sorry, Nix. There's so much cool stuff there to see. Oh yeah, this is pretty heavy metal. you know, vultures literally flying around with the bones of my enemies. And it's pretty hardcore stuff. All right, moving along. So who is this guy? We actually know who this guy is because he's got his name carved into him. This is Ebe-Il. Ebe-Il, and he was a pretty important administrator in one of the Sumerian cities. This particular guy here is carved out of gypsum, but I wanted to show this specifically because of the eyes, right? And previously, I had mentioned that ancient statues typically had things like gemstones or glass for eyes, and I wanted to show another example of that. So Ebe-Il is looking at you, and he's staring into your soul. Hello there. You were a kid when you were there. You got bored fast. Regrets. I mean, you can't necessarily blame a kid, right? What up, Mag? Good to see you. Eye makeup on fleek, as the kids say these days. Yeah. He's got the good old-fashioned little eyeliner. So, pretty cool here. And again, ancient statues didn't just have hollow eyes. They had gemstone eyes or glass eyes like this. Now, this is a pretty important stela here, and I've shown the photos of this before, but it's been way back in like the single-digit Adventures in History streams. This is a pillar of Naram Sin. Naram Sin was a king of Mesopotamia, specifically of the old Sumerian cities, and what is specifically important about this depiction of himself is that this guy is a human, but he is depicted as a god. And we can tell here that he is way taller and way bigger. This particular proportion in Sumeria between human and god was very common, and specifically the headdress, the hat. This was a deity's headdress. So Naram Sin here is a powerful conquering emperor with his enemies literally crushed under his feet, and he is depicting himself as a god. Now, this is the first time we see something like this chronologically ever happen, and the assumption here is that Naram Sin was basically declaring himself a living god. Now, that of course is reading into this quite a bit. Megalomania has been around for a long time. Right. So this guy would have been ruling in about the 2200s BC or BCE, whichever one you want to pick. So it's a pretty long time ago for this guy. But this is the first time we see something like this, where a guy decides to sort of draw himself like, how do you know he's a king? He's wearing a cool hat. Right? Because God said so. Could he unalive somebody on the 5th Street in broad daylight? Probably so. You know the rule, when someone, especially a Sumerian, asks if you're a god, you say yes. Now, this guy looks kind of unassuming. And he was a king, but he was a king of kind of a small little city. No, he's not a god. Just specifically, this guy's name is Gudea. And we know that he is Gudea because on all of his statues, he has these great little legends about all of the cool stuff that he's done. Now, why do I show Gudea? Well, this dude, when he became king, apparently had something. This guy had a body count? No. Well, I mean, I guess he fought in a couple of battles, and his city of Lagash was fairly powerful. But was it Lagash? Oh, now I'm second guessing myself. Gudea. Yes, he was a ruler of Lagash. Okay, I was correct. I had to second guess myself there for a second. No, not a super big body count. What's interesting about this guy is that he has a statue count. We have found more statues of this guy than basically any other ruler anywhere in Mesopotamia. This guy has, and I'm not joking here, hundreds of statues of himself made, and had them apparently all over his territory. And this guy just had apparently either a massive ego complex or some sort of need to be recognized. But he has tons and tons of statues. And even in the Louvre, there were about 4 different statues of him. But specifically, what's really kind of funny is you can go to some, like if you ever go to a museum and they say, oh, we have a Mesopotamian antiquities section. And you're like, oh, cool, they've got stuff from ancient Mesopotamia. They might have a couple of items, but I almost guarantee you if the museum is small to medium sized and they say that they have Mesopotamian antiquities department, they're going to have a statue of Gudea. I have seen statues of this guy in about 7 different places because he just made that many statues of himself. It's pretty funny stuff. So be on the lookout for Gudea at a museum near you. All right, so this is pretty famous, and I've shared this before as well. You probably already know what this is, but if you don't, this is, of course, the Code of Hammurabi. Maybe he lived in a time of incredible statue popularity. Maybe so. Maybe he was just catching the wave of popularity. And maybe he just had a lot of followers on StatueTube, or whatever the devil it was back then. Right? But this is the Code of Hammurabi. Here we see Hammurabi seated and a petitioner coming up to him. And if we zoom in and look at well, you can't really see the surface of it, but this whole thing is just covered with cuneiform and has all of the different laws of Hammurabi. Hammurabi, of course, is a very popular king of Babylon who is credited and was credited for a while with the first distribution of a legal code, but we know now that it was not actually him. That was an earlier guy named Urukagina, but nobody knows who Urukagina is except for weirdos like me. He stole it all from Tesla. He bought the law code and then bought the rights to put his name on it. What's up, Cave? You figured it out. He invented Sumerian fast food franchising, and the statues were promotional freebies. Oh, see, there we go. Yeah. It was like the toy in every Happy Meal, right? Oh, no, it was the franchisee. You know, like every time you open a franchise, you have to have a statue of Gudea in your franchise, right? Just got back from dinner. That sounds great. I had dinner earlier, and I'm somehow already hungry again. But, you know, that's what happens when you stream. I get the munchies. The Code of Hammurabi is actually the first NFT. Aww. All right, so we've got some really cool Babylonian wall art here. These relief sculptures would have been around gates at some of the big cities in the Babylonian Empire. I really like the particular type of artwork that we see here with the winged lions and the winged bulls. This is just really, really cool stuff. And I've got a really great statue here of Artemis, goddess of the hunt, with her hand on the head of a deer and drawing an arrow from her quiver. It's just a really cool statue. I took this photo because I was waiting more or less in line to take a picture of the Venus de Milo, and my Venus de Milo picture didn't turn out that great, so this one's actually better than that one. Now, there's a couple of funny pictures that I wanted to share with you all, because last time, you know, everybody likes seeing goofy pictures of me. So here is me in a giant old baptistry baptizing Figment, if you know who Figment is. Yes, that is Figment. So this was on a trip that we took to Turkey, and these giant baptistries you can see quite a bit all over the place. So penitent sinner being baptized in a giant baptistry. Here is a picture of me. No, that's actually not my wife. That is a colleague, a historical colleague. This is myself and my father-in-law, and we're drinking our espresso after a fine dinner in Italy. This particular location was in Bologna. We were staying at a fairly nice restaurant, and we had to, of course, extend the pinkies so that we get proper drinkability, I guess. Espresso after dinner, of course. Baptizing is a lucrative business. Profit margins are through the roof. All you need is a tub, and you can reuse the water, indeed. All right, now this particular photo has a picture behind it, or a picture has a story behind it. When I was going to Paris, one of my friends said, "Oh, you have to take a picture of you with the Eiffel Tower." And I'm like, I don't really care about the Eiffel Tower. It's a tourist trap. I don't really care that much about it. And my friend, who was my coworker that I shared the office with at the time, was like, "Shane, if you don't take a picture of you with the Eiffel Tower, I'm going to be very upset." And I'm like, "Okay, fine. I'll take a picture of me with the Eiffel Tower." So this is what she got. Me pointing at the Eiffel Tower with scorn because I don't really care. I mean, the Eiffel Tower is cool and all, but I didn't really care about the Eiffel Tower. I wanted to go to the Louvre, and I wanted to go to other places that we didn't actually get a chance to go to because we ran out of time. But there's the picture of me with the Eiffel Tower. Look, it's the Eiffel Tower. She got a absolute kick out of this photo, by the way, and laughed uncontrollably for a good 30 seconds. So, also, this is my Smashing Pumpkins. Tut tut, Tower Snob. What's actually cooler than this is, like, right across the road from where I was is the French Military Academy. The one that Napoleon built. And it's actually way cooler than the Eiffel Tower. We're being visited again by the puppy. Do you want to come back up here and see me again, Miss Puppy? You want to come and see me? Come on. Oh, yes, there's another puppy visit. Hello, puppy visit. Hello. Hello, puppy. What are you up to? You're just being very kind and generous tonight with the sugars. Oh, hello. What are you up to? You just coming to see me? I'm talking to the light box and you don't know what's up? What are you doing? What is he doing? You want to come over here? You want to come see me over here? Well, come on. Well, come on. Come on. It's okay. Come on. Come on. I don't know what you want. I don't know what you want. Huh? Want your booty scratched? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Gotta scratch the booty. I didn't care about the Eiffel Tower. I wanted to go to the Louvre. Louvre, not the loo. You went to Paris to shoot a music video, went to a bar afterwards, drank too much, and missed your flight home. What are you doing, puppy? What are you doing? Do you need to go outside? You gotta go see Brittany. She'll take you out. Go see Brittany. Did I check on my Timmys lately? I can't say that I have. I'm not sure if I know what Timmys are. All right, back to the photos. Here's a picture of me with the adventure hat. Oh, okay. My Timmy has fallen down a well. I got you. Okay. I got you now, junk. I'm with you. So this is a particular picture that my mostly I wanted to have a picture, at least one photo with me with the adventure hat. But this view, I was actually talking about this with KP and Mac in the mod chat earlier. This is at a place on the island of Crete called Gornia. There's an ancient, if you could only revisit one, if I could only revisit one museum from now on, which one would it be? Ooh, that's a tough one. Oh, dude, that's a really, really tough question. Can I loophole out of it by saying the Smithsonian Museum, and then get in the fact that the Smithsonian Museum is actually 14 different museums? Can I loophole out of that? If so, I'm totally going to do that. That's my decision. The Smithsonian. I'm pretty good at loopholing. Anyway, this particular site is on the island of Crete, and it is a really cool place. Of all of Greece, I think I had my best time at the different sites on the island of Crete, and the particular city of Gornia, which is basically just over here behind me, is an ancient Minoan city that they would have abandoned somewhere around 1200 or so. And it's really, really cool. And I just thought that this was a really beautiful view. So this is the Mediterranean with these mountains that sort of run right down to the water. And this is the mainland of Greece in the back. So Crete is about an hour ferry ride from the mainland. But, man, it's really cool stuff. Victoria and Albert Museum in London. I've never been to London. Well, I've flown through London, but that doesn't really count. And just to add to the goofy, here is me standing on an ancient statuary base as if I am a Roman statue. Notice here that I am looking towards the heavens as if I am directed. If this statue would have been complete, I would have been holding a sheaf of paper here in my hand. So Roman statue, there's actually a whole lot of sort of formula that kind of goes into building a Roman statue. You usually have an active hand and a passive hand. So here's my passive hand. My active hand, of course, is my right hand, and I would have been carrying some sort of legal document that would have signified either that I was an important person or that I was a wise person, looking towards the heavens because I was being directed by God. This particular statue would have been originally, if you read the inscription here on the base, this would have been of a general. This particular statue base is at a place in Jordan called Lejeune, which is an Arabic transliteration of the word legion, because there is a big Roman legionary fort here, which I'm actually standing inside. You can see part of the buildings here in the background, but I just thought this was a goofy photo. True commitment would have been having an arm amputated. Not so excited about that. Trampling on history. It's fine. It's been there for 2,000 years. It's not going to get hurt by me standing on top of it. All right. Now, one of the things that I did last time was show places where people were buried. And I showed a place last time called Baba Drah, which was this big cemetery in Jordan. But I figured I would show a more modern cemetery. So this is actually a cemetery, again, in St. Louis. And the reason I brought this back up, this is the tomb of Adolphus Busch. So if you know anything about Busch beer, brewed in St. Louis, Missouri, this is the guy that started it. And this is his mausoleum. And it's decked out in a Gothic style with a metal spire on top of it. It's got the pointed arches and the stonework. And specifically, if we zoom in here, perhaps a little bit of a, an ego here for Mr. Bush, Veni Vidi Vici. Yeah, I came, I saw, I conquered. But this is the tomb of Adolphus Busch. So this particular cemetery is a really interesting cemetery. I could walk around cemeteries all day. But this is in St. Louis, and as you're going into Calvary Cemetery, they have this giant statue here of St. Louis, the French king, who was, of course, a crusader. But it's in this really wicked, cool Art Deco style. This was built in the 20s and has all of these really wicked, great Art Deco griffins and lions and stuff. This is basically just a big standing pillar that's in the driveway. So as you're driving up to the cemetery, you pass this really big monument here, and I just thought it was really cool. Because you see all sorts of really great stonework. Of course, this is indicative of Irish Catholic style here with all of the really intricate knotwork. There's a very big Irish population inside St. Louis. Of course, a large portion of the population there is also Catholic. The city, of course, being named after St. Louis. It's kind of a giveaway about that, right? Shouldn't that have read Vini Vidi Mixtum? I came, I saw, I made beer. But there's a lot of interesting people buried here. If you know anything about Civil War history, you might recognize William Tecumseh Sherman. So William Tecumseh Sherman was one of the biggest and most important generals in the Union Army. And he was responsible for pacifying a lot of the southern states, specifically for a very brutal campaign through Alabama and Georgia that's referred to as Sherman's March to the Sea, where he basically burned and destroyed everything except for Savannah, Georgia, and they have a giant ego about it today. Savannah, the city too beautiful to burn. You're doing genealogy tree for funsies and doing another streamer and learning tons of stuff. Oh, yeah. Genealogy is really cool stuff, Tropical. If you ever run into some roadblocks and need some help, shoot me a message or something. I'm a big genealogical kind of guy myself, and I've done a lot of that stuff in my own family. Another person buried in this particular cemetery is Dred Scott. So I don't know how much you all know about United States legal history, but in the pre-Civil War era, there were a lot of attempts at eliminating slavery through the judicial system. And the Dred Scott decision was a very important Supreme Court decision. Basically, Mr. Scott had been born as slave, and his slave owner moved to a state in the North that had outlawed slavery. And Dred Scott reached out to a lawyer and sued his owner, saying that he, Dred Scott, was therefore free because the state did not recognize slavery. And the Supreme Court's decision was, we don't have any jurisdiction to decide this. And it was an unfortunate and momentous decision that continued to propagate slavery in the South when they could have said, no, slaves that make it to the North are indeed free. So Dred Scott, and he eventually did gain his freedom, thanks to the work of Taylor Blow, who had a lot of contacts and did a lot of legal work for him. But specifically here, and this is a really weird thing, but on top of Dred Scott's tombstone, you see all of these pennies. So if you're not familiar with the American currency system, the penny has Abraham Lincoln on it. The penny here being Lincoln, the guy who ended slavery, this is sort of, I guess, some sort of tribute. His freedom was eventually recognized. Yes, so I said it that way on purpose because he was free. And it took a long time for that to be legally recognized by the courts. Um, I and I might need to switch back over here to this. The way that I look at slavery, this is something that sometimes gets me in a little bit of trouble. Uh, is that even though it was codified into law, that law itself was absolutely horrible. And if we don't remember that those people that were slaves were people that should have been free and were free except for a system of repression and degradation, to me it feels like we are cheating them out of their experience. Because if we say, oh, the law said that they were slaves, so they were slaves, that doesn't mean that they weren't people, right? And that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have been free and that they weren't actually free based on the real tenets of the United States. If they were actually applying the law evenly, those people would have been free. He gained his freedom, and I was trying to rephrase it for you. Okay. People held in bondage. Right. Slavery is a perfect example of the difference between lawful and right. Correct. Anyway, there we go. There's the break train. It was inevitable. Getting back, again, we can see here we've got lots of evidence of Catholicism here, specifically on these two tombs here. We see all of these tassels, and these are indicative of archbishops. So the more tassels you get, and you move up in the church hierarchy, and specifically when you hit that level of archbishop, you get to make your own coat of arms and make your own little your own little thing here. So Kane and Kendrick, these are some of the first two archbishops of St. Louis. Pretty cool stuff here, and there's just all sorts of really cool imagery in this cemetery. You've got your host, and you've got your Mary, but then you've got like this great relief of the wine and the bread. All kinds of good stuff going on here. All kinds of good stuff. All right, now going back to Turkey. This is a weird site, and somebody was mentioning poking holes in rocks, and I said I would come back to that. Well, here we go. So if you notice, this site, by the way, this place is called Karahan Tepe. Karahan Tepe. Let me get over here. This is in Turkey, and I will be going back to this site hopefully in about a week. And you don't really get to see very much from satellite imagery, but it's in the middle of kind of nowhere, and this is actually in a bad spot. The interesting stuff is actually on the side of this hill, kind of right down here, and a little bit down here. But photos. Looks like the name beginning with K is an advantage as well, based on a small sample. Yeah. Sample of 2, probably not statistically significant based on all archbishops. But these circles are actually man-made, I guess, carvings, but they're called cup marks. And the way that this basically works is you sort of grind out a circle. You get yourself a length of either stick or twine or wood, and then you get a whole bunch of weight, either your body weight or maybe a larger rock, and some gravel, and you basically just grind a little circular hole in the ground. And these things are all over the place at Karahan Tepe. Now, how old is this stuff? That's a great question. And the answer is, we don't really know. You see these cut marks all over the place, and they are of various ages depending on where you find them, but these seem to be really, really old. And the best guess is that these are pre-pottery Neolithic, which would place them like before the Bronze Age, somewhere between like 9 and 12,000 BC, which is heck a long time ago. But some of these are really, really big, and some of these are really, really crazy, and you see them like just all over the place. And that would be a cool enough thing by itself to go see, but at this site you also have these guys. These are little bitty T-pillars. Now, if you've been on the stream before, you'll know that I geek out about Göbekli Tepe. But Karahan Tepe is another site like that. Can you imagine weathering and lichen and growth and etc.? Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we could get out of this if we could get better excavation, which is why we're going back. Because since we've been there, they have excavated more of these T-pillars. And you can see them kind of all over the place. So there's one right here, and there's one right here, and there's one that's fallen down right here. There's another one right here. But these little T-pillars, you can see them all over. There's one right here, one right here, one right here, one right here, and one right here, da-da-da. You can see them just all over. These little T-pillars are smaller versions of the much larger versions that you see at Göbekli Tepe, which is about 20 minutes drive from here. Are you going on an excavation trip or a holiday trip? Tropical, I'm going to Turkey. I'll be leaving Tuesday next week to go to Turkey for a couple of weeks, a little bit more than a couple of weeks. And it's going to be great. And I really hope that I can get back out to Karahan Tepe to see more of this stuff. Are they dated? No. I do not have an excavating license. I am going for scholarly academic work, but I am not going for excavation. I am going with another colleague. Getting an excavating license from Turkey is very difficult. And rightfully so. There is an amazing amounts of archaeological stuff there, but they require a lot of credentials. You have to have the pedigree to go do this stuff. You also have to have a showing of a certain amount of money that shows that you can actually fund the dig. And there's a lot of permits, and you have to meet with people, and you are going to have you're going to have to schedule a time where one of the state archaeologists from Turkey can go with you to the particular site as a scout and decide whether or not they want to be there while you are excavating. And if they decide that they do need to be there while you're excavating, you might get punted back for a couple of years, because there are only so many state archaeologists that exist. They do have quite good system, and in this area, the sort of lead archaeologists run the Sanliurfa Archaeological Museum, which is the third largest museum in Turkey, and it is immense and it is spectacular. Yeah, absolutely. They don't want to just let anybody go run around and dig up stuff from the past because, like Evo said, a lot of stuff has been stolen. And especially because I am out of country, that puts me behind yet another wall. They don't want people digging up antiquities and then smuggling them out of the country. So there's a lot of hoops to go through to actually do excavation. Now, what you can do is what my friend and I are going to go do, and that is called site survey. So I can go to a site and I can look around, and I don't have to get all of those special licenses. And there are a lot of places that are in Turkey that are partially excavated or not excavated at all. And in a lot of those places, there is research that can still be done because a lot of this stuff is kind of just sitting out on the ground. Like Karahantepe. This is not controlled. There's no fence around it. You basically drive past this person's house. I'll even show you the house. So this little person that lives right here has an enormous Anatolian shepherd that will eat your face, and you basically just have to stay in the vehicle until you get up here and the dog goes back to the house, and then you kind of walk out here, but it's not controlled. The government owns the land. Nobody really farms around here very much, so you just kind of walk out to it. Your mind is racing off on an archaeologist dating tangent. Should start a new site, dating app called C14, which will be aimed at archaeologists. Very nice. Carbon 14 dating. Very nice. If you look and find something by sheer luck, is that okay? Yes, but you got to be really careful with how you handle that. If you find something, especially something that is of incredible archaeological merit, for example, if I'm putting around and I find this jar, and it's a big jar, and it has inscriptions and stuff on it, personally, I wouldn't even touch it. I wouldn't even pick it up. I would maybe drop a radio tag on my phone that would have a GPS coordinate on it, and then I would immediately email the Turkish State Department and say, here's my name, here's who I am, I haven't touched this, here's where it is, you need to send somebody out to get this because this is an important thing. How did they feel about people standing on statue pedestals? Well, that was Jordan. Yes, I assume you don't touch it. Yeah, exactly. But you can look for stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And if it's exposed, I can take a picture of it and publish about that. You know, if it's an inscription that is on the wall of something, I can take a picture of that. So there's research that can be done even without digging. And in a place like Turkey, you can do a lot of research even without digging because there's a lot of stuff that's just sitting out there and nobody messes with it because you can't steal a wall inscription, right? Like, how do you steal an inscription? Yeah, non-invasive. It's totally non-invasive stuff. That's what I'm doing. And when I send you the link to the Discord, you'll be able to see a lot more about specifically what we're doing. Because even if you weren't aware that you donated to the trip, you're going to get the bonuses stuff from that. Yeah, it's still very much super cool, and I'm very, very excited about it. Anyway, back to Karahantepe. So here's another one of these little T-pillars. You just want the pictures. There will be plenty of those, and pictures in 2 rounds even, because I'll have the pictures that I take with my phone, and then I'll have the really fancy schmancy pictures, and depending on whether or not my buddy decides to let me have access to his drone stuff, I might even be able to share some drone photos. Digging up dirt from the past can cause all kinds of problems. It can indeed. If you were younger, tropical is never too old. My archaeologist buddy that's going with me is in his 60s, and he's an incredibly intelligent guy. He is one of the biggest reasons that I am who I am today, and there are the number of people that I would rather travel with, I can count on 2 hands. Dan is a great dude, and I'm very excited about it. But anyway, check out these little T-pillar guys. So this is probably about 1 meter tall, maybe about 3 feet tall. And it's in the same sort of shape that the Göbekli Tepe stuff is in. So pretty neat. And these particular sites, I think Evo asks earlier, is this dated? Yes and no. The theory is that this is from around the same time as Göbekli Tepe. There's even a larger term that's being used, which is the Göbekli Tepe culture. So this would be about 12,000 or so years ago, about 10,000 BCE or BC. Old people with young minds are some of the most interesting people. Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, so you can see all of these little T-pillars. So like there's a half of one right here that's fallen over. There's one right here. You can see even like a little stone circle around this one. There's one right there. There's one right there. There's one right there. There's one right there. One right there. There are just dozens of these. The best estimate right now is that there are approximately, there are over 100 of these out here on this particular site, these little guys, these little T-pillars. And I'm very excited to see the results of the excavation when we get there. All right, so let us stop over at our last location for the night, which is the ancient city of Corinth. Specifically, let's go to the ancient city of Corinth. There we go. Ancient city of Corinth. So one thing about Corinth, which made it important, is its location. So if we're looking at larger Greece, this is the Peloponnesian Peninsula, right? This guy right here. And if you're trying to move from this part of the Mediterranean to this part of the Mediterranean, being able to move across right here saves you a lot of time. Also, if you want to move an army from, let's say, mainland Greece down to the Peloponnesian, holding this little isthmus is again pretty important. So Corinth is well situated and was important in the ancient world for a lot of reasons, and specifically I chose this one because my friend and mod in the chat, Mac, and I went here in 2019, and I asked him, sort of as a contribute to the stream, I asked him what his favorite place was that we went to. And he said ancient Corinth. And we can see here that this site is really, really big. And you can see that all of these ancient things are still in pretty good shape. A lot of these walls are still standing. You can see parts of the ancient roads that were in the territory or in the area. And there are just tons and tons of cool things to look at. There's part of the original portico, covered walkway. There are these really big Temple Mount places. There's a big fountain right here. It's a really wicked cool site. So let's go back to our images, and we'll start off right here at the front with this big fountain. So this would have been filled with water, and you would have actually been able to walk out into all of this stuff. You can see here that they had sort of like hanging places for things like flowering plants. So this would have been kind of just a nice place in the middle of the city where you could meet your beau and look out at the water and see some flowers and have a good time and talk. There's this giant temple that's on the top of that Temple Mount. This was a big temple to Apollo, and it's built in a very old style. So this is a Doric style. The particular type of style that this is from a fairly old part. Corinth was one of the first cities to kind of pull itself out of the Dark Ages in the 700s BCE. There were site occupations here even before Mycenaeans. So there were like Neolithic people that lived at this location. And of course there were Mycenaean locations as well, but after the collapse of the Bronze Age, Corinth in the 700s was one of the first of the big Greek city-states to kind of start rebuilding itself. And you can see here from this massive old-style Doric temple that these guys really knew what they were doing. What's up, JMR? How's it going? So here's just another picture of just these massive blocks of stone that would have been on top of these big pillars. So great stuff. But one of the things that Mac mentioned, and I asked him why Corinth, and he said that one of the things that was sort of unique to this site about him, and this is actually something that I completely agree with, is that you can sort of feel what Corinth would have felt like, because so many of the buildings are still in decent shape for something that's 2,000 plus years old, that you could sort of still feel what it would have felt like to move around the city. Right, so if we're looking here, you can still see like the big main walkways and how all of these buildings would have been in the middle where you could have gone by and bought something. And if we look down here, you can see these little stalls that were around a portico. So you would have been able to sort of pop in and out of these little buildings off the main road. You're interested in the socioeconomic aspects of these places that generated the wealth to build this stuff. Well, Corinth was big on trade. One of the things that they had that was associated with them, so ancient Corinth sits right here, but there is a port right over here. Let me see if I can find it. It's called Sancrea. It sticks out a little bit into the water. Are you really going to fuzz it out? Oh, don't do that. Nope. Is this it? I have the power of Google search. Let me just Google it. Sancrea Port. Yeah, there it is. I was right there. Yeah, that was it. Okay. So they had this guy, which was an ancient port, and because of the waves you can't see it, but there's actually an ancient dock that stretched out here, and a big unloading and reloading place here. So basically, if you didn't want to sail all the way around the Peloponnesian Peninsula, you dropped off stuff here, and the Corinthians moved it over here, and there's another port up here called Tancrea, I believe. Or is it Terabassus? I can't remember what the northern one's called. There's nothing left of it. But anyway, there was another port up here, and Corinth sat right in the middle and basically charged people money to move across this way. Also, they charged people money to move across this way. So coming from the larger part of Greece down to the Peloponnesian, and the way around from the Peloponnesian up to the main part of Greece. So they sat on a water crossroads and a land crossroads. Were they big in fabric? They had some, but most of their stuff was coming from trade. Their big trade goods were pottery. They did leather, and they had fabric, but trade and pottery and stuff like that was big. Self-build or building contractors using paid slave labor. A little bit of both. So slave labor was pretty common in the Greek world, and it was not really ever something that you could get away from in the Greek world. Of course, the slavery system that they had was not similar to the slavery system that was in the United States, except for people owning people. But it wasn't the slavery system that would have been in place in Corinth was not agricultural mostly. It was working kind of stuff. And there were people, though, that just mined stone. And you could go to a quarry and order a temple amount of stone. And then it would take people, years to put all this stuff together. Rock up with some gold and buy a house from the local authorities or the homeowner. There's some of that, but usually these big expenditures would have been either crowdfunded or funded by the local governing body. So in Corinth, they had at various times a king or so earlier parts had lots of kings, and then they dabbled a little bit with democracy, and they had sort of a ruling committee. And they would have been able to marshal the manpower to work together, and they would have also been able to do stuff like get a lot of money to buy stuff. Managed to get up to 20K. Look at you. Got a fleet of wagons and a transport business ferrying goods across the Isthmus. Absolutely. That would have been it. The local Bezoses. Right? So here's again another so the main street is right here, and you can see that they have these just little businesses. When did Corinth fall? I'm not sure exactly what you mean. When did people stop living in the ancient part? I mean, because they're still a modern city of Corinth. It's just a little bit further away. People lived in the ancient city all the way up through like the 1200s before they moved up a little bit further to where the modern city sits. If we go back over here, the modern city is a little bit more north. You can see it sort of right here, kind of sprawled out all around here. A little bit closer to the narrowest part. Now, of course, now today they've actually built themselves a canal, which actually does connect all of that. Yeah, so there was continuous habitation in the ancient city all the way up to probably the medieval period. So here's just a walk down a road. And if you're walking down this road, there would have been, you can see just buildings. Oops, sorry, not on the image. Oops, sorry. You saw a canal. When was that built? I don't know when the modern canal was built. I think it was, if I had to guess, I think it was in like the 1930s, but I'm not 100% certain about the modern canal. Somebody can fact check me on that. I'm not 100% certain though. I mean, I guess I can look this up too. 1881 was first used. 1893. So there you go. I was 60-something years or 30-something years off. All right, so walking down the street, you'd have buildings on the left and buildings on the right, and you'd have little shops and stuff all over the place. Here's an actual little bit of the old Roman road that ran through here. And you can see that this would have been likely statuary bases along the road here. Kind of just get some decoration in the city. This is a fairly important part of the city. This was called the Bema, and this structure is basically just a raised platform where public stuff would have been conducted. So if there was a declaration from the king or a city council, or if somebody was going to do any kind of public business, this is where they would have stood. Now, interesting thing about this, if you are a fan of the biblical accounts of a guy named Paul, and you're familiar with the book of Acts, you'll know that at one point Paul got upon the Bema of Corinth and delivered a sermon, and he would have stood somewhere on this, because this is actually the Bema, and it hasn't changed since the ancient world. So he would have stood somewhere here if you are in that particular line of belief. But here's the sort of main drag of Corinth. So this would have been like the main thoroughfare that ran through the city. And you can see here this would have been a pillared porch. There would have been shops out here as well. Got to head off up early for work in the weekend, but thanks for the stream. Absolutely, Mantrand. Thanks for hanging off, and I hope that you are, hope that you're doing okay. Were my letters not enough? Yeah, right? So you can just get kind of a feel of the way that this would have looked in the ancient world if you were walking down here. You just use a little bit of your historical imagination. And I chose this particular picture to kind of end on, because if you did your Greek study in elementary school and you learned that there are 3 types of columns, and you learned that one of them was Corinthian column, well, that came from Corinth. And specifically, these are some of the original style Corinthian columns that would have been down the main road in Corinth that would have lined the sort of main drag that I just showed. So it's these leafy, florally designed things. And this is like the original Corinthian style columns. So if you've ever seen a Corinthian column, now you can say, well, I've actually seen pictures of the original ones. So Well, there you go. And that is all that I had. And that was 103 photos from all over the world. And I hope that was something that gave everybody a little bit of taste of what's out there. And I hope that it was worth your donations of channel points. Tropical's like, no, do more photos. I'm actually 20 minutes over what I would normally do, and my voice is actually starting to get a little tired. How many points was that? I set a goal of 250,000 points, and everybody just pitched in on that for 250,000 points. So hundreds of thousands. It was 200,000, 250,000. Yeah. We started at 7 like we normally do, so it's been like 2.5 hours almost of just photos. Just photos. 100 more. I've got thousands. I have thousands of photos. This actually takes quite a bit of time to put together because I have to go sift through all of the thousands of photos and find more things to look at and more things to talk about. More unlabeled photos. See, but I know what they are. They're labeled in my brain. Because my brain is weird like that. And I keep up with where I was and what's going on. But yeah, that was Oops All Photos, and I hope that was beneficial. So if there are any more questions about any of that stuff, or if anybody wants to drop any points or anything like that to redeem any stuff, now would be the time. I'm going to look for somebody to raid. Oh yeah, man, I love sharing stuff like that. One of the reasons I get excited about talking about travel is because there's so much stuff out there, right? There's just, and it's something that everybody can do, hopefully, at least once in their life, is go somewhere else and see something that's different and experience a world that's kind of bigger than the little backyard that you might be around in. And you don't have to go halfway across the world to see stuff. That's why I showed so many things from the States, right? And some of that stuff was in my state, and it's a couple of hours from me, right? And you don't have to necessarily go halfway around the world to find cool history stuff. It's around all of us, right? Like Matriand was talking about all of the churches in Uppsala, and Lumpy was talking about the church that he used to live across the road from. Oh, I'm totally excited about the trip. I am super duper excited about the trip. I found some stuff this morning that is potentially going to fundamentally rewrite the way that we understand history, and I'm not even joking about it. It's really amazing stuff that I'm going to get very excited about going to look at it. But I don't want to spill the beans too much. All right. Any other questions or points or anything like that? I did not find the TARDIS. No. I found a site that is in Turkey that is as old as Göbekli Tepe, and it has evidence of a sedentary village, which is ridiculously insane, because if it's actually from 10,000 BC and it's a sedentary village with domestic buildings and religious structures, that's 4,000 years before domestication. So this is going to flip the entire script on all of our models. My wife and I are going to Cartagena. Cartagena in Tunisia? Because if so, that's like amazing. Did I Columbus find it? No. I did not locate it. I just found the research that has been published about it, and now I'm going to go look at it. I'm not going to get the credit for any of that stuff. When I say I found it, like I was doing research and I ran across this site and it was like, holy crap, this is amazing. And now I've got to go there. And it kind of threw some of the itinerary in a bit of a bind because we don't have enough time to go see all the stuff that we need to go see now. Especially in that area, because we also found another stylite site. But if you want to know more about that, I'll do this again. No, I'm not going to actually do that again. Oh, Cartagena, Colombia. Colombia would be cool. There's some cool stuff down there. There's some really ancient rock shelters that are in Colombia that I would love to go see. That are dated from about 9,000 years ago. Some of the oldest human evidence in the Americas. Really cool stuff. What was Turkey like during the Younger Dryas? Pretty tropical. Had deciduous forests, plentiful game. Pretty good stuff. You would like the Taino stuff in Puerto Rico. Not so old, but still old. Hey, I was showing you a picture of a church that, is like 100 years old. History is all in my scope of love. Also, hey, Agroforest, good to see you. All right, so I think it's time for us to go do a raid. My voice is about to give out, and one of my friends that I have not seen stream in a long time is actually streaming right now. I'm kind of excited to even go see him. So we are going to go raid 8 p.m. And if you don't know who 8 p.m. is, you should get yourself prepared because we never really know what we're going to run into when we raid 8 p.m. It's a madhouse over there, but I love that guy. And he hasn't streamed in, I don't even know how long. It's been months since he streamed. It's 9:30. Anyway, we're going to go raid 8 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for donating the points to make this happen. I hope that you all are pleased with the outcome. And remember that our battle cry is adventure, and you can throw those lovely adventure hats in the chat when we get there. I might do some Gundam stuff over the weekend, but I'm not sure. But if I don't see you before then, I'll think of you all when I'm in Turkey, and it'll be a good time. But until then, take it easy.